I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. I am Ben Detrick. Jordan Rodelli is on vacation, and Andrew Quo, he doesn't take days off. Andrew, how are you feeling, buddy?
I'm just phasing through all these steps, man. I'm feeling incredible. It's like phase 2 is almost over. I'm about in the phase 3 of my life. It's pretty cool, man. How you feeling?
Well, I'm glad to hear that phase 3 is the one that follows phase 2. Because it was a bit of a surprise there. Like, what are we going into next after phase 2? And it turns out phase 3.
Well, the possibilities are phase 3 or back to phase 1.
Phase 2, more phase 2.
I mean, we're dangerously close to going back to phase 1.
Are we?
3 states are back, right? Like, didn't California, Florida, and maybe one of the Carolinas, I forget, phase it back to 1?
Yeah, that sort of stuff is happening for sure.
Yeah.
But New York is the anomaly now, which is weird in some ways because it came here first and demolished us. And then we started wearing masks and we stayed inside and we more or less flattened the curve and kind of eliminated it. And I don't mean that in the way of like eradication, but it's not really around in that same way.
We have diametrically opposed viewpoints on this that we've debated almost every pod since it started. But in a way, you're right. It's not in New York for now, but it kind of got every place already. So now it's gonna maybe mutate and maybe show up again. I don't know. Who knows? But it took 17,000 of us, man.
Well, that's besides the point. No one's saying there wasn't a horrific casualty and it didn't destroy New York City. That's not what I mean. I'm saying right now, New York is running in an opposite direction from the vast majority of America.
Yeah, it's the buffet has been picked through, whereas other states' buffets have not been picked through. So I hope they don't get picked through as much as they did ours. But
what I find annoying, and I'm always annoyed by some sort of, cop behavior, is people getting furious about seeing other people engaging in phase 2 activities. Oh, look at these people on the street eating at a restaurant. Now we're going to have to go back to phase 1. Good luck with your death. Like, I'm not advocating for any particular behavior, but the knee-jerk response to, like, seeing people eating at a restaurant being like, well, you guys are doomed, you morons. It's like, well, this is the plan, man. Like, I don't necessarily want to go eat inside a restaurant, which is what is supposed to be intended with phase 3. I'm not convinced anyone wants to do that.
I mean, there's going to be some takers. My question to you is cop behavior a part of the human condition? Do we have that in our DNA? Because to me, I opted out of all that who's the real cop here stuff. And it just feels like that's a deeply human thing. Like, the more reality TV you watch, the more you realize, like, oh, there's a quarter of you are just cops. And then the 3/4 of you are just suppressing that because there's better cops than you are,
Top cops.
Yeah. Oh, that popular show, Top Cops.
Is it part of the human condition? Yeah, for sure. I would suggest that when we were little bands of humanoids running around eating things from trees, there's probably some cop behavior going on. Mm-hmm. Self-policing is part of like any small group of people, whether it happens in an office or it happens on a sports team or if it happens in a bunch of nomadic tribesmen.
Hey, those are my fish. Hey, those are my berries, right? That
Yeah.
person stole your berries. Mm-hmm. It's just like society.
Without getting into all the topics we've talked about so many times, the stuff with people complaining online as if it's not the same as calling the cops, I think that's the dynamic that's weird to me. Like when you go on Twitter and you say, there's so many fireworks, why won't someone do something about these damn fireworks? Hey, you're kind of calling the cops. Like, it's the same thing. You're drawing attention to something and saying, why won't someone do something about this? And who would that someone be? The government, right? And who would the government get involved in this situation? To me, that's what kind of this has been bugging me about the COVID shaming, is that people are calling the cops in a way that, like, they're functionally calling the cops,
Maybe.
but doing it in a way that's like, I'm just talking, I'm just commenting on the internet, just taking photos and posting them. It's like, no, you're telling the cops. You're trying to get the cops involved.
Well, like the motivation on Twitter is so upside down. And I think everyone's motivation on Twitter is first to get a response, right? If you're lucky, you get a like. If you're really lucky, you get a follow. Comments are probably unwanted. No one really wants to talk.
Where does retweet fall under this hierarchy?
I don't care about a retweet. It doesn't necessarily help you. It's a like is nice. A retweet's awesome. It's better than a like. Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna say, I think the like, that's small change. Oh,
Yeah.
like a little treat, in the words of internet philosophers.
And there's a way to get likes and a way to get followers on the internet. If you're willing to do that, you're probably a person who's like, these fireworks are annoying, am I right? And like, that's the way to successfully build numbers on a platform like Twitter. A way to not successfully build it would be to say, they're kind of nice. There is no conspiracy. You guys, it's New York City. It's loud. People don't really like that.
There's some truth to that, but there also, I think, is... Okay, so one thing that happened on Twitter this week was a guy was at a restaurant, phase 3ing it up with his wife.
Whoa,
And-
jumped some phases over there.
I think it was a phase 3, wherever this took place.
A phase
And they
3
didn't
king.
bring the shredded cheese for her fajitas.
Oh, I've
And
heard
it took
about this.
apparently 16, 18 minutes or something. It was scandalous. And of course, he posted about it on Twitter. Put up a photo of his wife looking unhappy, forlornly gazing at her shredded cheeseless fajitas. And it became a meme. You know, the shredded cheese wife, as things happen. But I mean, he's snitching. That's what he's doing. He's snitching. He's complaining about the restaurant he's in, tagging them, and then putting up photos instead of just alerting a server. Like, he's snitching. He wants an outcome. And I think you're right. He wants interaction. He wants people to say, hey, you're right. That sucked. Here's a little treat, a like. You don't get your cheese, but a little morsel. But he also is trying to make something happen. And I think there's a disconnect between the people who are in New York and saying, these damn fireworks, they're doing this thing to my small dog. It's like, you are imploring someone to do something with that tweet.
I mean, it's the dreaded C word, right? Content. And
I was like, is it? And they're like, okay, yes, content, yes.
right, and in order to
You're being a content.
you filthy content creator. So I think there's a blinking cursor, and the motivation is to get a response or followers and build up numbers. And we fish for news items to comment on and then get those things that we want. And
yeah, I'm saying there's a motivation that's not just, I could get a follower off of me complaining about this Mexican restaurant. I think it's this is punitive. I'm going to try to publicly shame this restaurant's cheese delivery systems. I'm going to humiliate them and make them sad and make them pay for this, versus like telling someone this and having them take some, 30% off your check.
Annoyingly, I think us taking the bait incentivizes that behavior. So, for example, I don't really pay attention to like Trump tweets, so I don't really know what's going on there. The interns like to take a lot of Trump tweets and sub in some Dolan-esque takes on them. But if you stop worrying about it, like it kind of floats away, it evaporates in your mind. And I think the shredded cheese thing did go viral, and that was a win for him. He won, right? Like,
I don't know. It was more making fun of him and for his wife's inability to consume fajitas without shredded cheese. She probably got labeled a Karen.
I mean, who got owned, right? Like,
yeah, they got owned. He became the shredded cheese husband.
what's his name?
I don't know. Shredded cheese husband.
See, like, it kind of disappears, right? It just becomes a shredded cheese joke. And, like, Twitter's really cool and really weird. And we've talked about Gia Tolentino and Trick Mirror and all these things that happen. And, my response is always like, it can work for you, but you can't do it all on Twitter. And because Twitter kind of represents like the whole spectrum of the things you enjoy and don't enjoy. And the fireworks thing was a great example of that, because it hadn't occurred to me that it was a bad thing or a conspiracy until I looked on Twitter. And I'm like, oh, there's people who think this is a police conspiracy. Like that just never crossed my mind. And I went into it a little because it was really fun.
What are you, dumb? It never crossed your mind that fireworks were not some sort of psychological operation by the CIA?
Coordinated across the country.
You are very naive.
But I love a conspiracy theory. And shout out to Tom DeLonge. UFOs are real. And I just think they're really entertaining, but it never occurred to, like, I remember at night I felt really dumb because I heard all these fireworks and I went on Twitter. I'm like, these are kind of beautiful. And then I found out, like, no, you're on the side of the cops. I'm like, excuse me? I thought this was delinquency, but apparently it's like plants by police, law enforcement. Like, I don't know.
Well, it's the same inclination. I know we're treading on topics we always talk about, but they're also the only things that are going on. That everyone has the propensity to assign morality to things they don't like, and then put the people who do these things into the camp of other people they don't like.
Right.
So if you're an all lives matter, like, bootlicking cop lover.
If you had a tiny green hand with a piece of paper that said all lives matter, okay, I got you, go on.
But you're watching the fireworks and you're being like, you know who this is. You know who it is.
Right,
you know who's doing this. If you're on the other side, you're like, it's the cops. It's just like,
I know.
Look, all I know is these are annoying me and my small dog, and they are clearly being set off by blank. Insert my enemies.
Yeah, I wonder, like, if the Pop Smoke record dropped last night when it did, and this was before 50 Verge, and when we still kind of loved him maybe a year and a half ago, would we be like, he's so creative and versatile, and Pop Smoke was blessed by his artistic vision. That barbed wire looks incredible. Shout out to both these unique, amazing artists. Like, we just were singing the tune of Virgil $50 and just decided to hate that Pop Smoke record cover because we remembered that tune, right?
I mean, it's momentum, right?
Yeah.
Like he was visible.
Right.
He wasn't beneath the scenes. Virgil's getting sautéed for not doing a whole lot wrong.
I know. I'm like,
we're just like, that guy, cancel him again. Re-cancel him. Was he uncanceled? No. Fuck it. Cancel him twice over. Like, what did Virgil do wrong here?
let's backtrack. He supported Black Lives Matter and donated $50 and encouraged all of his followers to do the same. He got roasted for that, for a very kind of like great sentiment. I'm pro Verge on that.
Well,
and then
that was a little more complicated than people took it as, because he was sort of doing what everyone was doing at that time, when it was just match your friends, and he just like
Right,
matched
right.
their thing and then posted it online, and people took that as the sum of what he'd given, and he explained that it wasn't. He kind of got a bad rap, and should he be cognizant of what it looked like? Sure, but again, he kind of got a bad rap because
Yeah.
we know the people that he was matching the funds for. There are guys who are involved in doing good work in Miami, you know, like, okay, we're going to add money to this. You do it. Tell your friends. Tell
Yeah.
them to do it. And it adds up. That's what everyone was doing.
Yeah.
And Virgil kind of just joined in and be like, pathetic.
Yeah. Do you know what his net worth is? And even on the side, he was like, yo, I donated a ton of money. And we're like, Mr. 50. I mean, I love a good joke, and the 50 joke is nice, but like, I thought he's kind of, I'm a fan of Virgil. And then this Pop Smoke record comes out, and I'm like, this looks kind of awesome. And everyone's
Oh,
like,
wow. So you're going that contrarian. You like the album cover.
well, it's not like a classic record cover, but like, I love the big barbed wire. It looks kind of like Pen and Pixel, Master P stuff. I like the weird metallic or like stainless steel roses. I'm okay with it. I didn't find any of it egregious. The photo of him was kind of like flat. He could have put a filter on that, but like the barbed wire was cool, right?
Yeah.
Right. Like take it or leave it, right? Can we?
What's funny is I'm not a design guy. You like it or you don't. I looked at it and I viewed it through my, untrained eye.
Sure,
as
sure.
He's trying to do something here. He's trying to go non-design.
Mm-hmm.
It's not complex. He's throwing a couple items into it. It's kind of a collage.
It looks like a V Magazine fashion editorial. Like he's going through editorial design eyes, right?
That's what I interpreted it as. Yeah. But it's funny because everyone was yelling about it, And if we haven't described it adequately, it's basically the first image that pops up if you Google Pop Smoke. It's literally the first image is that photo. He is wearing one of Virgil's Louis Vuitton jackets. I'm sure that's why he picked it. But it also came off as looking really sloppy. He found the first possible image that shows up. He throws some barbed wire on it. There's some diamonds or glass roses or platinum roses or whatever those items are. And they're just kind of like tossed on there. But I liked the one he did for the dude from Griselda.
Yeah.
The one with like the classic painting with the chain. I thought that was like non-design done well.
I mean, everyone hates a new logo. Every time there's a new logo for an NBA team or a company that they like, they're like, this is trash. Like it's just a gut reaction. And I think us being all design experts, it's true. We are all design experts. We know we like certain album covers. I mean, and Pop Smoke has a different weight to it because he was tragically murdered, and we love him more than ever. I hear Pop Smoke all day long, every day, as well as Biggie Smalls. But like Pop Smoke is a part of our consciousness right now. So people take it very personal, and that's important. It's not like I'm a fan of Virgil, but it's not like his work with Nike or his visual art is like any more or less compelling than that album cover. It's the whole package, right? Like if you take a Rothko by itself, it looks like a cloudy color field. But if you contextualize it within his work, it's really interesting. And that Virgil cover is interesting enough to me.
But also, Virgil's not an illustrator.
Mm-hmm.
Virgil's not even particularly a graphic designer.
I disagree. He is literally mostly a graphic designer. His fashion is graphics.
Okay, that's fair. But I wasn't really thinking of it in that way. I was saying his job is not to make like album covers.
True.
Like that's not what he does particularly.
I hear you.
It's true. It's true. He is doing graphics. I mean, actually, very much so. He's doing graphics.
He's doing meta graphic design.
Yeah.
That's his whole thing.
To me, if you look at what you'd expect from Virgil, what would it be like? PS with quotes around it?
Yeah, exactly.
on a black background. You know, like what would you think Virgil would come up with? Because Virgil does sort of minimalist stuff anyway.
Wrapping a brick in paper and writing brick in quotes, like yeah, he I think fancies himself a conceptual graphic designer, a fashion designer as well. And when we see kind of an emotive image like this Pop Smoke album cover, it doesn't quite fit in the box that we put him in, and people did not like it, and the Pop Smoke team said they are going to make some changes.
Yeah, I saw Stephen Victor said that they're going to have a new one because the fans have spoken. But when people were putting up like their versions that they liked, they were so
good.
boring.
Yeah, nothing
good.
Good.
So boring. It was just like, I'd be like, it says Pop Smoke in like a different font on an all black background. You're like, what?
I cropped a photo of Pop Smoke from this editorial. Isn't this better? I'm like, no. This is like, it reminded me of the MF Doom album cover with the giant cockroaches and the huge burger bubble, shout out, and the Elvis hair, the plastic Elvis hair that he had. It had that kind of vibe to it in its scale. And, oh, man, I was going to curate a pen and pixel art show, and I was talking to them in Florida, and those guys were just like, we get these offers, we do it. You got to come down here and look through our archives. And I wanted to do that so bad and kind of like disintegrated. But they're highly influential, and I felt like their influence mostly lied in bodega windows, because now you see all those giant sandwiches and cups of coffee and donuts in bodegas. I'm like, pen and pixel, man, huge. And I love to see this Pop Smoke thing. I am naive. Maybe I'm too old, or maybe I'm too dumb, but like, I saw that Pop Smoke album cover. I'm like, this is kind of interesting, right? This is kind of cool.
What do you think the next version will look like?
Some very generic kind of accepted image. So it's not going to have any teeth to it. It's going to look very photoshopped, I think.
I think it'll be another like press photo that hasn't been released of him with some filters on it to make it like black and white only, with like Pop Smoke written across it or something.
Yeah, it's going to look like the posthumous Big L record, T.I. King, The Firm, something like contemplative maybe, with some respect. Put some respect on that album cover. I think like his death is peak tragic and awful, but we don't have to memorialize him every step of the way. And I haven't heard this record, but I'm sure I'm going to love it. And I think we should like harness his excitement and like his kind of in-your-face music. Like,
I think the album comes out on Friday, and he has been omnipresent through the protests, at least here in New York, and from what I've spoken with other friends of mine in their cities as well. I don't know if it expands, nationally, but certainly on other cities it's happening. And I saw a bunch of, tweets from people we know that we're friends with who were out last night being like, play Pop Smoke already, come on. When other people were playing music during marches and demonstrations. So he has really been the soundtrack to like civil uprisings here in New York. So I'm hoping his album can keep that same momentum. And
love it.
I like, Welcome to the Woo. I like it. So I'm hoping the album is good. Caramonica did a good.
John Caramonica from the New York Times.
Yeah. He did sort of an as told to about the final days of Pop Smoke, and there were quotes from people in the music industry and 50 Cent and other people who were involved in the making of the album, and they're convinced this was going to make him a star.
Yeah,
I don't know if this is true or just hyperbole, but that was kind of the word out, was that this was the album that was going to launch him to stardom. Well, it's technically his first album.
Yeah, but it's just kind of his phase too, right? Like, it's kind of, there's artists go through these progressions. Like, what the game's been missing was Joel Santana's second album, but it was going to make him a star, and if it didn't, that was his shot, right? He had a different trajectory than Cameron, and like, I think Pop Smoke was going to be a star, and this it felt like as a community we were ready for him to be like a made man, like an artist that we cared about continuously, not just a summer anthem. I thought he was here to stay until he actually literally was not here to stay, which fucking sucks.
Yeah, I think the trajectory of stardom within, I guess, the rap world, it used to be so much based on, drop a classic in your first album. And people would do guest appearances, a single here or there, and then they'd put their energy into putting out that first album. And you can tell how important that was to someone like Jay-Z.
Yeah.
To have that classic as a first album. And people liked it at the time. It was really well regarded. People thought he was great. And he, after the fact, went back and really made sure to beat that into the ground, that Reasonable Doubt was a classic. Mm-hmm. And again, no problem with that. It's a greit album.
Yeah,
I listened to it last week. It's fantastic.
Oh, wow. Digging in the crates.
I dug in the crates. That's the Evils, man.
That's a great record, though.
But he knew how important it was in rap lore to have your first album be a classic, because it put him aside Biggie and Jay-Z.
36 Chambers, Illmatic.
Yeah, that it really mattered. Your first album has to be a classic. And now people put out so much music before their first album that you don't actually even know when the first album is a lot of the time.
I love it. I love Kanye doing the whole infinite edit to his records on digital streaming platforms. I love Young Thug releasing his first album 10 years into his career. It's awesome. This is a fan's paradise. I think music gets better every single year that I'm alive, and this 2020 seems to be the best year of music ever.
It's high praise. I mean,
it just gets better.
I like that you're just sticking to a format. You're and you know what the next best year will be? 2022, baby.
This is basketball, right? Every year is better than the year before, because this is how life is.
I mean, these are, basketball and music are similar but different. I don't mind your theory, though.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's true, because if someone is a fantastic musician and just doesn't put out an album for a year and then comes back a year later, you're was the NBA better this year even though Kevin Durant didn't play? I don't know. Are we talking about the league, or are we talking about the peaks? Is a year defined by its 10 best albums, or is it defined by some intangible median?
Yeah, I think, that's a good question. I think it is defined by Durant and its 10 best albums, but also in the way an immune system gets stronger and stronger. I think Durant could pop his Achilles, unfortunately, and Steph Curry can hurt his hand, but then something else replaces it. Not the Ewing theory, that doesn't exist. I'm done with that. But another thing replaces it, and the whole immune system, the whole idea of the NBA is more interesting and adapts, and that adaptation to me makes it by definition better than the year before.
It's theoretical.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's no way to actually prove this weird feeling.
Music just hits different this year.
I mean,
on an annual basis.
Yeah, and my entry and exit into certain music, I was obsessed with fourth generation emo 3 years ago, and that kind of died out, but I thought that was thrilling. So it's hard to jump on a moving car, jump inside a moving car, and there's a lot of cars passing by, but I don't know.
So here's my question then: is Kanye's
new jam
"Wash Us in Your Blood"? Is that what it's called? I think so. "Wash Us in Your Blood." Is that by default Kanye's best work? It is his newest.
It's not necessarily his best work, but individual artists.
But it's newest, quote. It just came out today. It actually has to be. It might be the best song ever made. It came out today.
Well,
the stuff from yesterday, garbage.
If Kanye popped his Achilles and went to Brooklyn, he does not have his best season ever. No, but as a whole, the NBA and music, I mean, Kanye putting out a song, certainly.
Kanye has you on the ropes with this one.
No, music is better because of technology only, right? Just because we got Kanye on our phones the second it dropped makes this a better experience.
Oh, you're finding out the loopholes. Well played.
I mean, I was like in transit today and that song popped up and I listened to it. I'm like, that was incredible. I watched the video and Kanye's new song like that. And it was pretty good.
So it makes it Kanye's best music, is what you're saying.
Sure. It's his most resolved thing, you know, like why not? Like fight me. I don't know. But
Did you like it?
I liked it. I loved his angry Yeezus punk stuff though. I think that stuff is really compelling. Does it get stuck in my head like his melodic kind of Pablo stuff? No. But it was kind of great, right?
I thought the beat was great. The production sounded fantastic. The video, I think by his name is Jaffa, I believe, an artist. I thought the video, it's kind of a total mismatch of like
found footage and
like,
digitally created stuff.
brutal stuff that actually occurred, police brutality
with
and,
jokes too, which was like
it's
a
all
relief.
over the place. But I thought it was a really compelling watch.
Yeah.
And with the beat, it was a vibe.
It was a vibe because there wasn't like, Tyler Johnson, I'm sure, is disappointed. Dame Lillard is probably shaking his head, but there weren't like bars on it. It was a vibe. And
there was nothing Kanye did as a vocalist that was particularly interesting or memorable.
Yeah.
He kind of filled in the blanks. But I did find the visuals pretty arresting. I did like the beat.
Yeah.
It seemed like Travis Scott appeared.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to figure that out.
I think it was Travis Scott.
I was like, can't wait till he comes in. It's like, God, the song's over.
It's like, what was that Travis Scott?
No.
Is this a milk party from 2012? Is he the special guest?
Is this a World Cup Adidas jam in an empty storefront on Bowery?
Is this a Beats by Dre party during NBA All-Star Weekend at Avenue?
Is this a warm red stripe in my hand?
Is this the Fool's Gold Day Off at the Waterside Park over there in Williamsburg?
Shout out to Catch Dubs, our guy.
I definitely saw him at all those places mentioned.
Catch Dubs?
No, Travis Scott.
I was like,
and
Nick is more elusive than Travis Scott in that era. Nick had stuff to do. Travis Scott was trying to get in our brains, and it worked.
He's like, look, do you have some sort of structural apparatus that I can climb on? Because if so, I would really like to come and perform at your party. If I can climb, I'd like to climb.
Did I ever tell you I DJ'd right before Future at a Fader Fort event? I told you this story, right? This was the infamous one where he got the sound technician bloody and sent to the hospital.
I don't know if you told me that story.
It was a Fader Fort.
Is it a good story, or did you just spoil the ending?
Basically, quick, I DJ'd a bunch of Rich Homie Quan songs. Future went on. I was really looking forward to it. His hype man was too loud in the mix. Future got mad at the sound guy for something, maybe that. Hit him and sent the sound guy to the hospital, and it made news. But right before that, I had a really nice exchange with the sound guy, and I felt really bad. He was a really cool guy.
Well, he shouldn't have had the hype man's mic so hot.
It was hot, but Future, to the sound guy's credit, Future, his heart wasn't in it. He was like, this is kind of like everyone has 20-minute sets. The day's been long. It was like 6 o'clock where everyone was kind of hungry and tired from warm red stripes. And Future wasn't really
Neck
delivering.
Sore from craning up to look at Travis Scott climbing upon something.
It's like, where do I get to climb?
Was this in Austin or New York?
New York. It was in Milk Studios. The auxiliary Milk Studios location. The Fader Fort crushed it for like a decade. They were so good at giving us artists that I cared about so much. I don't know. I was being selfish, but at that point, Future was hot, and I was like, I can't believe you got Future. It's like, yeah, he's here. He's right
Fader
there.
Fort was great. CMJ. That was the good old days for music in New York City. The Fader would have the Fort at a venue somewhere in like the Lower East Side or downtown and do music basically all day for free.
it was so stressful because that's when I was working for the paper, the New York Times, and I was just so stressed about seeing the shows and getting into the ones that I had to cover. And it was just like I just dread every day. I'm like, am I gonna get into this like weird secret Kanye thing, or is this gonna be a hassle? And now CMJ doesn't exist anymore.
Shout out though to PD Crack for going to Max Fish.
PD Pablo.
Did PD Pablo also go to Max Fish?
No,
PD Crack,
I just like
PD Crack
PD.
did though, and he was hanging out at the Fish, having some beers, and was a very nice guy.
Oh, what'd you talk about?
I don't know. I have no idea. I probably said 10 words to him. I just remember I was like, well, PD Crack's here at the Fish.
J.
The
Rue
old
used to go
Fish,
to the
the old
Fish all the
Fish.
time. I talked to him once. It was not my memory of J. Rue as the Damager, Wrath of the Math era J. Rue, which I quite liked a lot, but it was a lot of Premiere heavy lifting. But
He
yeah,
was very much a Lower East Side lurker for, I don't know, late 90s, early 2000s. I don't know what he does now. I don't know where he lives. Totally could still be around, and I'm not. But
yeah,
there was a period of time when you would see J. Rue once a week.
yeah. Maxwell used to come into the party I threw almost every week. He's still very popular, but he used to come in.
He's
He's
still
a
around,
nice
too.
guy. Is he still around?
Still partying.
Yeah, he used to come in at like 1 a.m. and post up. And he was just nice. I'm like, do you have any requests? He was like, no, I'm enjoying myself. I'm like, all right, Maxwell, do your thing.
Play Ascension, please.
Yeah. The
Till the
odds,
cops
man.
come knocking.
But yeah, so we didn't get your take on this Pop Smoke album cover.
Pop Smoke album cover. I said, it's whatever. It looks lazy. It's not quite interesting enough to be that lazy. I think it's if it was even sloppier, I think I would be more intrigued by it.
Can I ask you a question that do you find that Virgil's skills lie in his like effort?
No, I don't think that's the case. But also, if you're talking about the clothing he makes, that's different from just like his
True.
logoing or what he throws on something, because he's doing whole collections and that takes a lot of work.
Epic. But even like the work to put foam in quotes onto a foam sole on a Nike, like there's endless hours of work that goes into that moment, and it may seem like a quick gesture, but I don't know, I love those quick gestures in music and in basketball and in art that seem like it was really easy but actually like took forever.
Yeah,
I
I'm
feel
more
bad for him.
speaking about when he put together, he does several collections a year for Off-White. He does the Louis Vuitton stuff now. That's a lot of work.
It's
Those
insane.
seasons don't
Yeah.
particularly end.
I know.
You're doing them, and then someone's like, okay, time for resort. Like it doesn't have like, it's a schedule and a clock that doesn't particularly end. It just keeps going and going and going, and you're doing the next thing. So, and he was a guy who DJ'd constantly as well during a lot of this. So when I look at Virgil, I've always viewed him as a very hard worker.
Oh, 1,000. And, it's funny that we were talking about Kanye because I think he got a lot of pushback when he ran that really influential Kanye blog. But basically he had a couple of really great eyes doing it for him. And he wasn't necessarily involved in that, but it was like KanyeWest.com. And I'm sure Virgil's like, yo, which one of my interns fucked up that album cover that everyone hates? It's like, I'm sorry. It's like, do a better job next time, man. Or is he a chef and everything goes through the pass and he looks at everything? I don't know, but he seems like
There's
a man
no
that is
way.
very
There's
hard
no-
to
I
get a
don't
hold
think-
of.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't think there's any way he didn't okay that album cover if he didn't do it himself, or say, hey, why don't you put these elements together and then show me a couple examples and I'll pick it. Maybe
Yeah.
he did it himself in Photoshop. I have no
Yeah,
idea.
true.
But there's no way that one that like left the building without Virgil saying, for sure. It's a Pop Smoke album cover. It's a big
Exactly,
deal.
exactly. Like the interns, we let the interns do all the tweeting for us. But if the New York Knicks were like, do the interns want to design the new Knicks jerseys in relegation? I'd be like, yeah, get out of the way, interns. We're going to put some heavy metal slime, some new metal shit on this.
Also, I feel sympathy for him. This sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. He put out an album cover, whether or not people like it. That doesn't matter. He put out an album cover that he thought was cool, that he thought Pop Smoke would have liked, that he thought represented Pop Smoke. And whatever effort he put into that, I don't care. It was his idea and his creation, and they entrusted him with that. And then to have people be like, no, boo, this sucks. Okay, we're getting rid of it. Like, that's lame. It's lame. They should have stuck with it.
They should have stuck with it, and it goes.
If you don't like it, so what? Listen to the album. Who cares?
Who cares, right?
If
It
the album
becomes a
ended up being
memorable
classic-
album.
Yeah, if the album becomes a classic, that is an iconic cover, despite the fact that it kind of sucks.
Well, I always think of band names that way, or even team names. Like if you told me it's like, oh, this is a band called Vampire Weekend, I'd be like, what the? And then they put out like 4 great records. It's like, yo, I'm going to the VW show, and you don't even think about it anymore. I remember like first hearing that there was a band called Modest Mouse. I'm like, that is ridiculous. Why would I ever entertain an idea of a band called Modest Mouse? And I heard them. I'm like, they might be my favorite band of all time.
But like the Coolio cover that you had posted up,
Yeah.
it's Coolio staring through a ring of barbed wire.
Yeah.
Like, is it cool? Not really, but it's kind of iconic because it's the album cover for Coolio's album.
Yeah.
It's that famous quote about buildings, politicians, and prostitutes. If you stick around long enough, you become respectable.
Yeah.
You make an album cover, everyone makes fun of it. If the album endures, you got yourself a classic of a cropped image from Google with some barbed wire and some shiny things. It would have worked. I think that was unfair. I don't think you can ask someone like Virgil to put his name on something and then walk it back. I think that's a real betrayal of a guy who was entrusted with something that was kind of a big deal.
And have some faith in the audience. There are no lakes in LA. There's no jazz music in Utah. There's no grizzly bears in Memphis. But we get it. Like we'll make it work.
This isn't a subject for debate.
Yeah.
It was what Virgil wanted to do, and you decided it was cool, and then you put it out with his name on it.
Yeah.
If you didn't like it when Virgil showed it to you, you should have pulled the plug then.
Yeah, totally.
You had time. You could have said, Virgil, run it back. Put his name in quotes.
Right.
Red brick on my brick.
Which would have gotten no pushback at all. If it was that simple, no one would have said anything. But this is a Knicks thing, right? Being like, oh yes, we're gonna put Taj Gibson and Julius Randle on the court. Here we go. It's like losses. Like, okay, we're gonna redo the whole thing. Have a new, president, new GM, new coach. I'm like, you guys, you couldn't see this like a second before it happened.
I'm sorry. Are you talking about the relegation league?
Yes, I am. What is delete 8? I love my team, man. Come on.
Can you explain to the
Bring
good
it.
folks what the relegation league is?
It's the 8 teams that are left out of this weird burger bubble. They're outside the burger bubble. They want to get inside the burger bubble, so they're going to create their own, maybe like offshoot. It's like Carl's Jr. or the less popular zone, and the 8 teams that didn't qualify are going to play games, hopefully, with like less security and less, like, I don't know, less protections.
Well, look, yes, here at the Arby's bubble, everyone's going to get COVID. We've already established that.
Checkers, yeah.
But the Checkers bubble, you will get COVID, and these games don't matter, but you will get to see worse teams.
Because you're a damn patriot. And you know what? Patriots are okay with COVID.
I'll tell you one thing. Over here At the Checkers bubble, no face masks allowed. Patriots only.
Listen,
I'm in.
Checkers does not deserve to be discriminated against. What's good for Checkers may not be good for you. I've never had a Checkers burger, and I never will. Will I watch the Delete 8? Maybe.
8 teams relegated from the burger bubble.
It's like I have my Checkers double stacked burger, my Checkers drink, my Checkers fries. I turn it on. We're looking for Alonzo Trier. He's not there. It's really weird.
Will the Atlanta Hawks say "King me" at the end of the Checkers bubble?
We're not playing chess. We're playing checkers.
That's right. This is Checkers.
Have they announced at all what the plan with the Checkers bubble would be? Would it be at like MSG, and would these teams have to sleep there, like in the weird Momofuku kiosk, like Trae Young sleeping in the Emerald Lagasse like burger stand?
All right, we got a bunch of cots down at the Pensy.
Yeah.
Just find a nice one. There should be some. I don't know. There might be some liquid left in the vending machine bubbles, whatever those things are.
The Golden
Tubes.
State Warriors are in the DraftKings lounge. They need more blankets. They're kind of chilly. Steph Curry is really not loving this DraftKings lounge area. Yeah, I can't wait to see Steph Curry suit up for the Delete 8. That'll be amazing.
I think someone should take the initiative to put one of these things outside. We know it's safer. Get outside. Phase 2, baby.
It's hard to shoot long-range shots outdoors, man. That ball takes all sorts of different routes to the hoop.
Wow. Sounds like it would favor ethical basketball players and not immoral ones.
Unethical ones. But where... they can make a basketball court anywhere, man.
Dude, anywhere. Just do an outdoor court.
Like, do we really want to see Iggy Brzdakis take it to the hoop in the Checkers League on the Chrissy Street courts? Yeah, we do. As I was saying it, I was like, yeah, I'd sign up for that for
Phase
sure.
2, we can just go and watch. Social distance, stay a little away from people, wear a mask. Dude, crowds can be there if it's outside.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah, it's like curbside eating, except your feast is Checkers bubble basketball.
I like how all your reservations disappear as long as it's outside.
Hell yeah. Outside, wearing masks, staying apart.
Didn't quite work for Florida.
Dude, we're not getting into this. Don't bait me.
Okay. No
proof.
triggering. No triggering.
No proof. Outdoors is safe. Do whatever you want as long as it's outdoors.
I can't wait for the Burger Bowl and the Checkers Challenge.
So it sounds to me like Adam Silver is not going to be spending 3 months down at the Burger Bowl.
The captain's
down at
not
the
going
Burger
out with
Bubble.
the ship? He's not George Clooney? He's not going down with his beloved ship?
Is he wrong?
No, he's right, because it's fucking dangerous. The whole thing should be canceled. He is right for not wanting to be there because it's very dangerous, and he's wrong for doing the whole thing in the first place.
Okay, yes. Yes, I'm for sure. But if you're going to do it, doesn't he have the obligation to actually be there the whole time? It kind of is a tell, right?
It's like those
If
Civil
Adam
War
Silver's
generals,
like,
right?
oh, hell no. You're like, well, then we can't do this, man.
Yeah.
If you're going to be coming in and out every now and then, dropping by, but you're not willing to stay in the burger bubble, like Ronald McDonald isn't going to be there. The king isn't going to be in the burger bubble. Come on, man. You can't take it seriously if Adam Silver won't commit to doing it, and he wants players to. Can't take him seriously.
If you had the programming for the Tupac hologram, I feel like it doesn't take much to make it an Adam Silver hologram. Could he just like drop down and be like, welcome to the burger bubble. I am Adam Silver, the hologram of Adam Silver.
Sure, he could do all that. I'm saying if the owners themselves are not willing to go into the bubble, and Adam Silver's not willing to go into the bubble, How are you asking players to do it? Like, you all work together. You're all doing this for the betterment of America, bringing back sports so you can unify our fractured nation. You won't go in the bubble for that? Why not?
Jeff Bezos won't go down to a factory and pack boxes and wear a diaper with his colleagues? Weird.
Facts. Well, shut it down.
You shut it down, man.
I'm agreeing with you. We're all on the same page.
Spencer Dinwiddie has it. He's feeling symptoms. He has chest tightness and a fever. This is not good. I think DeAndre Jordan has it. The Nets are getting ravaged, New York City. But also a bunch of Kings have it, and a bunch of Nuggets people in the facility have it. Like, this is already falling apart.
Playing outside and wouldn't have any of these problems.
Just let in that fresh air, and then we'll just
find
go
yourself
away.
an asphalt court and go at it.
Is there any way we can inject outside into our bodies?
What if we have to crown the king of the checkers bubble as the champion because the burger bubble never actually occurs? Like, the Knicks are still in it.
Yeah, what if the Knicks are the champions of the NBA universe, of the burger NBA universe? They're already champions in my personal record book, so checks out.
It can happen.
Yeah. But yeah, I like how the Nuggets are like, we need to sanitize and we need to test more, but in a week we'll be fine. I'm like, yes, it'll be smooth sailing in a week.
Here's how this works.
Yeah.
We're going to burn our practice facility.
Yeah,
we're just going to torch the place. We got a guy with fresh hardwood floors coming in tomorrow. All the basketballs had to be, shot.
We lit a UV light in the middle of the court, so we should be good. I don't know. The American tradition of management not taking the same risk as their workforce is tried and true, right?
Of course, I agree with that. If you own a sanitation company, you are unlikely to be out there lugging trash. But if Adam Silver's not willing to be in the burger bubble, it is revealing. Because he could say, absolutely, I'll be there all the time, and then just go down there and leave whenever he wanted. He could have said it.
Yeah.
But he's like, oh, no. No, most definitely not. There's other places I need to be, like my home.
I
have to be at my home,
You're missing the actual plan. This is actually...
Because Adam Silver is an employee, too.
This is a whole season of Undercover Boss, where Adam Silver puts on shorts, a jersey, and a headband, and goes out there and balls out with the best players in the NBA and be like, I'm your boss. And they're like, no way. We just thought you were Giannis too. It's going to be a very touching ending, Ben. But along the way, we're going to find out a lot about our commissioner.
Wow, Jordan Clarkson looks slightly different.
This broke boy on the Sixers looks a lot like Adam Silver without glasses. Is this an episode of Undercover Boss?
But Adam Silver, though, is not the player's boss.
That's true.
And he's not an owner. He's a worker.
He's not a governor.
Yeah, he's a worker.
Yeah.
Not even a boss.
Are any of the bosses going to show up? Is James Dolan going to... Well, he's in the Checkers Challenge, but are any of the other owners going to make their appearance for this amazing season of reality
I'd love
television?
To be down there, but I don't want to die. Yeah. The whole death thing. I'm really rich.
Okay. So tell me,
I have these billions of dollars, and if I die, I might be reincarnated as a poor. Like, imagine how I'd feel.
You're always reincarnated down, which is convenient for Buddhism. It's a side note, but right. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I just hate these owners so much. I got lost in my hatred of these owners and what they're doing. And they're playing off the emotion of fans wanting games and players who want to play because they're great at basketball. Like, stop doing that. Of course some of these players want to play. You're doing it wrong. They just
want to heal our nation. Our wounded land needs to come together over basketball.
It's like, what's the upside if I go down and film this Undercover Boss season? It's like, well, the upside is you're going to endear yourself to your fan base and employees. It's like, great. What's the downside? Like, you could die. I'm like, I think I'll stay home.
Well, look, all those huge racists who love NBA basketball need to be persuaded by this message of unity. You know, on one hand, I'm a member of the Klan, but I just love watching hoops.
Yeah.
Is there some way that I can reconcile these two things in the burger bubble?
No disrespect to burgers, man.
None intended.
Let's just go on the record.
Absolutely not. If anything,
Impossible burgers, veggie burgers, Beyond Burgers. You guys are good. I don't mean to soil their good names.
I'm sorry. Is Ronald McDonald staying down here? Oh no, definitely no. Ronald had to go back home. He has a lot of other things to do.
Checking in for the Bucks, we have Roy Rogers. Anybody? Where is Wendy here?
Wendy couldn't make it. She didn't want to die.
Sixth Man of the Year, Wendy, anywhere? No. I mean, it's just mean, man, and like holding. I mean, this is a cookies theme, but like the desire for these ballers to play is apparent, but they are not the ones who should be taking care of this company. And of course they're going to want to play because they're amazing at playing basketball and they want to get paid. And these are all things that they're going to want. And owners being like, see, they want it. That's just mean. It's cruel.
On the other hand, if we look at some of these baller-ass teams that are over in the Checkers Challenge, the Cleveland Cavaliers are putting
making
a squad
moves,
together.
It's like Bobby Axelrod in Billions. While everyone's has their eyes on a different prize, they might re-up Andre Drummond. Huge.
Drummond, Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson,
The prom king himself.
Larry Nance,
Colin Sexton. Alex Garland. Not Alex Garland.
One forward after the other.
Yeah.
In the model of the Philadelphia 76ers and the New York Knicks, they are building a powerhouse of forwards.
Dude, the Knicks would kill for this team. The Cavs are a joke, but the Knicks would like die for these players. If Dolan saw like, oh, you have a perennial all-star champion in Kevin Love and two young guard rookies, yeah, that's exactly what we want. In reality, that team sucks.
Knicks, all hands on deck. We just received word that Drummond is re-upping in Cleveland.
Knicks fantasy. King,
it's like
king
it's
me.
like the decision like, all over again. Yeah. Drummond is staying put.
Cedi Osman as their glue guy. I mean, right. So if you're James Dolan and we know what we know about Dolan, if you said, okay, our starting five is all-star Andre Drummond, all-star Kevin Love, champion Tristan Thompson off the bench, whatever. Young guys, Colin Sexton, Darius Garland, both lottery picks, high lottery picks.
Dante Exum, Australian, often injured on the roster.
But, like, not even jokes. Like, Dolan would kill for this team, man. Like, Dante Exum, like, reclaimed a top pick. Larry Nance Jr., pedigree. Like, this is what he wants, right? Dan Gilbert and James Dolan are two peas in a pod.
What are the Cavs doing here? Are they looking at...
Nice. They are trying to stack those burgers, those Checkers burgers, like Checkers pieces.
I guess what I'm trying to get at.
Okay, let's get serious about the Cleveland Cavaliers. Enough jokes.
Okay, look. Let's get down to brass tacks. Can the Cavs plan work? Think about this lineup and who in the Eastern Conference would have the balls to go against such hard men.
Who here has the cojones to go against these twin towers of Tristan Thompson and Andre Drummond?
Okay, look. Drummond anchoring the paint, post presence, rim protection, elite rebounding. Kevin Love, stretch four, prototypical champion. Young guys running the show. Colin Sexton, a prom king.
Kevin Porter Jr. sounds like he could be cool based off of his name.
This team hasn't existed. I'm already woefully bored of them. Like, this is a team I will never, ever watch unless I'm forced.
Well, Drummond and Love is like a recipe for a nap, like a solid 2-hour nap. But I kind of like Darius Garland for another season before he turns beige. Like, he's interesting, right?
I love rookies that are sort of like Marty McFly when he's in the past. Like, 2 years in, you're like, oh my God, my potential. I'm starting to fade. Like, we know who you are. You're DJ Augustine.
Yeah. I mean, rookies are exciting until invariably they all turn into like, they disappear when you bet on the Giants game. They're evaporating from their hoverboards.
Just slowly morphing into Martell Webster.
Yeah. On Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins should change his name to Andre Wiggins. Just like
and come back.
Yeah.
New player. New year, new me.
Just rebrand the whole thing. Darius Garland is not going to be a star player, even though he was really, really touted on draft day and he moved up. But I don't know. I don't know what this team is doing. They look like they're going to get high picks and squander them forever because that's all they do until LeBron James pops up.
Bronny.
Are they going to get Bronny?
They got to hope on Bronny. Where does he got? Two more years of high school?
I'm hoping he plays in New York City. Is he going to be as good as his father? It's weird when kids aren't as good as their dads, like Big Dog 2.
Well, he's got to be better. He's newer.
That's not what I said. Talk about misquoting. But the NBA in general is better with Bronny in it than LeBron James.
Sure.
It invariably, like, evolution doesn't go backwards. That's not how evolution works.
That's true. What about de-evolution?
That is a tenuous proposition. Because de-evolution is bias, right?
Yeah, sure.
Like, medicine doesn't get worse. You just have, like, some misses.
Look, are we done talking about the Cavs yet? Like,
At least we're not asleep.
I want to get to what's important, not talking about the Cavs.
Broke boy.
Oh, yes. Finally, a subject I'm excited to talk about at long last.
All right. You have the soapbox.
The Sixers have acquired a broke boy. Ryan Brokoff. Ryan? Yeah, I think it's Ryan. Yeah. Ryan Brokoff.
Get your broke boys straight, man.
A 6'7" shooting unitasker who was on the Dallas Mavericks for the last couple of years. Another Australian has been scooped off of waivers by the Philadelphia 76ers. Yeah, I like it. He can shoot.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's helpful.
Are we sure he's just not like one of the staff writers on Jimmy Kimmel, or just like someone who writes for the Republic? Because the pictures of him do not inspire. They don't send chills down my spine.
I've seen the photos, and it is inconceivable that he does not have a podcast.
This is true.
But it's about the Marvel like extended universe or something.
The multiverse?
Mm-hmm. He can really shoot, though. Can't do anything else.
What the hell is going on with this roster? What is this roster? As a Sixers tourist, it's really weird. I want a McDonald's sandwich, and it's Simmons and Embiid, but then you get checkers everywhere. There's a bunch of checkers players. Shout out to Net Zero, who is an ethical king.
So the Sixers are a really strange roster, as we've talked about many times, because of the whole two centers, two power forwards, and a wing, that idea. But I've kind of figured out what the problem is. Everyone says it's Embiid and Simmons, and that's what's been said for a couple of years, and people just say it as if it's true. They just regurgitate that same thing. Oh, they don't fit together. Oh, well, they play different. Like, no. They are both fantastic. But if you look around the league, right, there is a hierarchy in the best teams and ones that have good offenses, but it's pretty distinct. You look at Los Angeles, you've got LeBron and Anthony Davis. You look at Dallas, you've got Doncic and Porzingis. If you look at Houston, you have Harden and Westbrook. In all of these situations, and these are all three of those are top 5 offensive teams. In all of those situations, you have role players and you have stars. For the Rockets, if PJ Tucker takes a bunch of mid-range jumpers, he gets yelled at and he gets sent off to the bench because that's not his job. His job is to play defense and stick open threes and stop trying to do other stuff. The Sixers have a lot of chiefs and not enough of like workers. Because Tobias Harris makes the most money on the team. He's ostensibly a star. Josh Richardson wants to do creative things.
Like
Al Horford.
Like get boiled in hot salted water.
Yeah, a little rotini. But, Al Horford is a 7-time All-Star, whatever the hell he is. 5 times, 7 times.
Is he a Hall of Famer?
Borderline, right?
He's really good. He was and is really good.
But you have a bunch of guys who pride themselves on doing things when they get the ball. And that's not how this works. You have Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons who handle all the hard stuff. They score 40-some points a game combined very efficiently. There's shot creation, there's post scoring, there's transition opportunities. They're both two-way players who are maybe both in the top 5 defensively in the league. Rim protection, disruption, etc. They do all the hard stuff. All the Sixers have to do is figure out some guys to do the easy stuff. What are the easy things? Sticking guys who like to shoot threes around. A little half-court ball handling. Some perimeter defense. That's it. That's it. That's all you would need with 2 top 10 players. But Philly won't do it. They've complicated what should be an incredibly easy task. They've turned 2 top 10 players into guys who don't work together by putting all these other moving parts around them until it's complicated. This isn't complicated. You have 2 superstars. Let them do their thing and other people get out of the way. And that's why, like, Al Horford, he's just redundant. He's not a bad player, but when you put him on the court with Simmons and Embiid, what do you want him to do? Post defense, already got it. Shot blocking, already got it. Post scoring, already got it. What's he supposed to do? There are weird splits with that team that are indicative of a front office that did not understand how humans play basketball. They added 2 guys to that team in Richardson and Horford who have been completely disruptive to what they did last year. They had a fantastic offense when the starting unit, and they added 2 guys who made it bad. That's what they did. Swapped out Jimmy Butler and JJ Redick for 2 guys who made the offense bad. So anyway, I am happy that the broke boy is part of the team because the Sixers need more guys who don't do things, who will stand there and shoot threes happily. I will go to war with Tobias Harris, Simmons, Embiid, and 2 dudes who just stand there and chuck up threes like Mike Scott or the broke boy or Furkan Korkmaz. That's all I want.
I like Shake quite a bit too.
I like Shake too. Shake should start. Yep. I think Richardson should be a Fusilli off the bench. It's not because he's
How you doing, you crazy bastard?
It's not because he's bad, but he just doesn't work with Tobias Harris and Embiid. You can look at the numbers. If those 3 guys are on the court, Richardson can't do anything because he becomes like the 5th option. He's not a good enough shooter. Can I get really nerdy for a second?
Oh, okay. You can get nerdy now.
Okay, finally. Thank you.
Stats.
If you look at guys who are great shooters in the NBA, really confident shooters, dudes who hunt threes, they take contested threes. And these are all cataloged by, SportView player tracking. So you can look all this stuff up. you can see which players took tightly guarded threes. Almost none. Guarded threes, open threes, very open threes. Like they break them down into those categories. So an interesting stat here is that the Sixers have only made 55 guarded threes all year. It's not the lowest in the NBA, but it's low. It's like the bottom 5. They don't have guys other than Korkmaz who will take a guarded three. And that just shows you players know what they can do. If a player won't take a three where a defender is closing out, if he doesn't like that, if he is willing to turn that into a drive, then you know he isn't a shooter. James Harden by himself has made something like 90 this year because James Harden's a shooter. He's confident. He wants to get that three off. And that's what it is. The Sixers built an entire offense, the starting unit, around Simmons, who of course is a non-shooter, with 4 guys who do not take covered threes. They won't do it. Like something, I haven't put the numbers down. I'll tell you what they are. Tobias Harris, 4.4% of his shots are like contested threes. Embiid, 0.9%. Jay Rich, 7.5. Horford, 0.9. That's it. Those guys don't take those shots. In comparison, like Bertans, 23% of his shots are contested.
I mean, he's cool. Yeah.
Duncan Robinson, 26.8%. Redick, 19.5. Covington, 15.1. Tim Hardaway Jr., 10.4. So the point here is the Sixers should have known this stuff. They should have looked at these numbers and said, we're putting a bunch of guys who don't want to take threes on the court with 2 guys who are power forward and a center, neither of which really wants to take threes. We need to generate a bunch of three-pointers, and we're putting guys out there who don't like taking them. Anyway, Brokoff. He can take threes. He wants to. Good. Glad he's there.
Yeah.
By the way, Redick and Covington combined for like 95 on the Sixers 2 years ago. Just Covington and Redick do that. They take those shots.
Yeah. In the burger bubble, is a Big Mac carb on carb with just bread? Because there's a piece of bread in the middle. If you take the meat out, which a lot of my buddies do, you just have a sandwich with Big Mac sauce, lettuce, cheese, and another bun, a bottom part of a bun. It's a bun sandwich.
The Sixers have a bun sandwich.
This is where I was going with this.
Is the Whopper? Does the Whopper does not have a middle layer, right? That's just the Big Mac.
The Big Mac is the only sandwich, I believe, that has a carb already in the middle. But I think
you're right.
That
is wild.
It's wild. It's wild. It's a bun sandwich. And I know Burger King has tried to put fries in burgers, maybe, or onion rings, if you count the breading as a carb. I do not. It's a bun sandwich, man. That's what the Sixers are. But it's great to hear that you're into the broke boy, because I'm here. I'm all about the broke boy. As soon as I saw a picture of him, I was like, yeah, this is going to be hilarious.
I don't know how much he'll play, but it is worth noting that despite Mike Scott being bad this year, he shot fairly poorly from 3-point range. He can't really defend. He can rebound a little bit. And that's more or less broke boy's profile, except he's a much better 3-point shooter and aggressively hunts them. Sixers are better when Mike Scott is on the court than when players like, Jay Rich or sometimes Tobias, just because he does one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sixers need to simplify their plan if the season actually ends up being played. They have 8 games to sort out how to dumb this down. Like, dumb it down.
Not to be confused with de-evolution. This is an evolution. It's not a regression. It's an adaptation. Go on.
You look at these teams who are good and have great offenses. They don't do complex stuff. Yeah. I'm not saying they won't run an interesting set, but they have an idea, and it works because they let their superstars do what they're capable of, and they put players around them who complement them. And the Sixers have done the opposite. They've eroded the awesomeness of their two stars repeatedly over and over and over. You know, they put Simmons in a position where he gets less defensive rebounds every single year. 3 years straight, he's had less defensive rebounds, like proportionally, or at least defensive rebound opportunities. It's the exact opposite of how Milwaukee has approached Giannis.
Yeah.
They've literally strategized to make sure he leads the league in it. And the Sixers are derailing Ben Simmons' rebounding by personnel intentionally.
Yeah, just being adjacent to Sixers Nation, it is frustrating because it's almost there. I think you guys already have the defensive wings with Matisse and eventually Zaire. Like, that's already in place. You do not need to invest in that. Broke Boy is kind of close to what you need, like you said. Someone who's willing to take contested threes. Like, someone who shoots contested threes is available in the league. That's kind of easy to acquire.
Yeah, I don't even find shooting to be that much of a premium.
It's not.
You don't need guys who are like chuckers, but the Sixers do at this point because they don't even have like kind of chuckers. They have dudes who actively avoid taking threes. They'll come off of a curl, they'll come off of a high screen, they'll get the ball, they'll intentionally hesitate. They'll basically convince themselves not to take it by like a little hesitation, letting the defender close out that one step closer, and then they can reset it and then go ISO into a 12-foot pull-up.
You're tied. There's 6 minutes left in the game. It's time to put your burger bun burger lineup of death on the court for the Sixers. Who do you want?
My best lineup for Philly, I think I would go with, well, the wild thing about Philly, not I'm going to get back to this, is that their best lineup might be Shake Milton at the point.
Love it.
And then Horford on the bench, and then using the rest of their previous starting lineup. They haven't played a minute together. Not one.
Really?
The lineup we presume will be their starting lineup hasn't played a single minute together. It's a really weird situation to be in for a team that has, as I said, a pretty obvious hierarchy. You've got two superstars, you've got a pretty good player in Tobias, and you don't have a lineup. You haven't figured out a starting lineup. I think it's mostly a product of not having many two-way guys, because Matisse is a bad offensive player, but he can defend. Furkan Korkmaz can't defend. Mike Scott doesn't really have a position to play because he can't guard people in the backcourt. You know, I don't know. We'll see what happens with Shake. But my lineup ideally might be Shake, maybe Matisse.
You can
Tobias.
switch out offense defense with Matisse and Korkmaz, right?
I would do that. But I think Matisse's low usage is totally fine also.
Yeah.
I don't care if he won't shoot. It's cool. He'll only take open threes. Good.
Yeah.
Good. If give the ball back to somebody else. I think that's what I would go with, though. My gut would be to go with either Matisse or Big Dog 3 at the 2.
Wow, Big Dog 3, huh?
Just he might give you some 3-and-D stuff. I don't want someone who dribbles. Furkan dribbles too much.
He does.
I want someone who just stands there and takes threes.
Yeah. So you have, would you keep Simmons at the dunker spot?
For sure.
Yeah.
The most noble position in basketball.
It is the most ethical spot of all spots.
It's so valorous.
It's like a burger with a bun in the middle. Can you get more valorous than that?
Nope.
Nope. The answer is no.
No, that's the most valorous.
I feel so guilty because I want to see this so badly in the next few months, and I know it's a bad idea, but I desperately want to see Shake Milton and the Sixers go for it, man.
I'm okay with them not playing for months. I don't understand why it's now or cancel the season. Like, just keep doing what you're doing. Nothing.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? South Florida's looking real gnarly. We're going to say October now. Okay, cool. And the league, I think, falls a little flat when it says, well, COVID is going to be around for the foreseeable future, so we might as well get this knocked out.
No.
Really?
Yeah, no.
Because
It's
if
changing.
you had proposed doing this in New York City in February, it would have been quite different than if you did it now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're obviously the same kind of, it's the same virus. They're the same concerns. But everyone would have said that's remarkably insane to try to do it in New York City during the height of COVID.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening in Florida.
Yeah, I know. And our behavior is changing. Like, masks had a big moment last night when Pence, Hannity, and Goldman Sachs were all like, or the last 24 hours, were like, masks are a good idea. I'm like, this might change everything. We might get basketball if these three weird, the trifecta of grossness, just like get all together and convince these pinheads to wearing masks. We could get baseball, no sin bin, or basketball, you know?
Oh, if your boy Trump will get that mask out there, maybe it'll help.
I want to text him and be like, yo, my boy, get that mask on. Get that big mask energy so we can get some Shake Milton in our lives.
Doesn't look presidential.
I don't see it for me. I don't know, man. I mean, this is going to be the debate moving forward for the next until it happens. And every day we hear about more players getting this virus, and it is very clear to me what should be done, and it's very confusing why that's not happening.
I mean, my theory remains the same, that the owners have no intention of this ever happening, but are willing to let the players go down there and get sick if that's what it requires to not fold.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the legal aspects of what the CBA can do or what the players can do as employees of a unionized employee workforce of this company. But I bet you owners have it all figured out and are taking the path of least risk.
Well, think about if you're an owner, right? And
A governor.
governor, right? And you want this money. There's a lot of money there to be had.
Governor.
You know, the players are splitting all this money between 300 some guys. This is just half of this is just going to owners.
Governors. Yes.
I'm not going to say governors.
Oh, you're not down? Okay. I just want to make that clear. That's
So-
fair. Yeah.
So these guys, they don't have to go into the burger bubble. They just want their cash. They have no risk.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't think they really want this to happen. But what's the worst case scenario for them? It happens. They're not going to get sick. They're not going to go down there and have to live for 3 months out of a hotel. They don't have to do any of that stuff. So if you're an owner, you're like, look, we're going to try to get them to cancel the season. And that way we can blame this on them and tear up the CBA and hang them with all the financial losses. And if they won't blink, they're going to have to go sit in these hotels for 3 months.
Listen,
And we'll,
they get to
we'll
put
applaud
their
them. We'll say it's great.
they get to put their slogans instead of their names on their jerseys. What more do you want?
Texas real estate companies are no longer going to call it a master bathroom.
Although
Victories.
I thought an interesting detail was that I heard today that they were going to paint Black Lives Matters on all the courts, on the 3 main courts.
Oh, a symbolic gesture.
But
Thank God.
But also, not for nothing, they've already had a tough time with a certain fan base with the whole Maury China thing. That is something that they did not need to do. That was interesting to me because it already signifies deeper to what the vision of this league is. And I'm like, I wanted to be kind of flippant about it, but it was actually an interesting thought. Like, they're signaling to us who they want their fan base to be.
Maybe. I kind of think that it's more a testament to the idea of Black Lives Matter crossing a different threshold than it has in the past, where every brand is saying Black Lives Matter. Like McDonald's Twitter account, Black Lives Matter. Like it has become as non-controversial outside of, as you were saying, a certain community who are psychos, as like Pride.
Right.
You know, there are certain people who are like, what do you mean pride? But every NBA team, like, no, gay rights. This is fallen under that category, which is really amazing. And I think it was Glenn Grunwald was saying that he thought this would derail this social movement because brands were now jumping and leaping towards it. But I think it also is a statement to how powerful the message is. That you have to get down with it. And I think if it withers, it'll be of its own volition, not because brands jumped in and turned it into a hashtag.
Right, like beating.
I think these things are separate.
Right, like a W versus the 2020 Lakers is tremendous. A W versus the 2020 Knicks is not tremendous, but it doesn't devalue the win. It's just like, you're right, like Black Lives Matters has a power, and it is being devalued when you recontextualize it to this volume. But at the end of the day, this is where I came out.
It's devalued to the people who are using it in a devalued way.
Right. And
it doesn't devalue it for the people who are marching in the streets.
Right. It's just like a win versus a team like the Knicks is still a victory. And I think if I turn on my TV and see this burger bubble and these words on the court, I'm going to be like, this is actually pretty heavy. This is heavier than a business that's boarded up with this graffiti. Like,
see, I look at it the opposite way, right? I look at it like, this is just they're doing this. They're the perfect example
the bare minimum
of a massive company that is saying one thing and doing another.
Yeah.
So, of course, we're willing to say Black Lives Matter. Yeah, write it all over the place. Put it on the back of your jerseys. Now go down in the goddamn burger bubble and make us our money and live there for 3 months.
Right, which is cruel and the opposite of what we want. Right.
Write all types of shit. That's cool because that means nothing, because that's not money. That's not power. Those are words.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I believe
that's why I'm like cynical about, people who are companies and organizations that are trying to give symbolic victories in lieu of actual victories, and in lieu of defunding the police, in lieu of justice, in lieu of arresting Breonna Taylor's killers. Like, I don't care about painting the street Bill de Blasio.
I mean, symbols have a spectrum of affectability, but I do believe in symbols. And like when it's when the mayor of DC paints Black Lives Matters on the street, that was incredible. And then when people and then this, I'm like, oh yeah, the power has been changed, and
you're building a prison,
right? But in the grossness that could be sports, and it is sports, no sin bin, we still have like a professional football team in Washington D.C. that will not budge on the clear as day error that they're making. And to me, a simple gesture like maybe them just stepping away from that and be like, oh, listen, we're the Washington Warriors now, we're not going to use that word anymore, is going to take my fucking breath away, because I'm just not used to that culture doing this kind of stuff. Someone at the bar, I'd be like, what's your problem? Be like, oh yeah, like that's not happening. But like in the context of this burger bubble, I don't know what it's going to feel. You make a good point. Like, it might be the bare minimum.
Right, though. The different symbols have different value.
Yeah.
Seeing a burning police car or a burning police precinct, that was a symbol. That wasn't real. It didn't matter overall. They were symbolic, and they meant something, and they were impressive, and they inspired people, and they were memorable. And the what is it? Is it the Robert E. Lee? No, what is the statue? The guy on the horse. Who is that? Is that Grant?
Ulysses Grant. There's both. They're both on statues.
Yeah. I'm thinking of the one that's just covered with graffiti.
Oh, I believe. I should know. I don't know. That looks really cool, though. The one with the great picture of that kid dunking.
Yeah, exactly, that one. Yeah. It's like that covered with graffiti is symbolic. Mm-hmm. And yes, it is technically a symbol to say Black Lives Matter on the side of an NBA basketball court, but its importance is in the eye of the beholder.
Yep. I agree.
Like, you're right. Like some redneck might be like, incredible. Like,
Yeah.
look at it. There it is on a basketball court. I'm never watching this again.
Yeah, I mean this whole few months have provided us with a few like very breathtaking images and symbols, and they've gained and lost some power. But like the whole thing was started by a heartbreaking image, right? And I don't think writing something so obvious to me and you and all of our listeners like Black Lives Matters is going to have like a breathtaking effect when you turn on the burger bubble, but it might. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet, you know? Can you imagine all these players coming out and like walking off the court? I'm like, that is memorable. And then it'll be diluted immediately when every team does that. Remember when Kobe died and the first team took the shot clock violation? I thought that was really powerful, and then every team did it, and I was like, well, right, now we're just doing this thing.
Yeah, we'll see. But again, I think the owner's behavior indicates who they are, and
This is
the rest is window dressing.
Yeah.
We absolutely agree with you in every way except for the tangible ones.
I know. We have to protect these players and like just pay them the money. You're going to lose some money. Just honor everyone's contract and don't get them sick. It's just so simple.
Just wait a little bit.
Yeah, just wait till it's safer. Have a better plan. That's like my thing. It's like, who's the leader who has a plan? That's all I want from all of this.
I don't think the burger bubble is the best possible plan.
No, neither is the Checkers Challenge. And we don't know anything about it, but I guarantee you it's not a great plan.
Not a great plan, but the perfect pod.
Again, it's like the evolution of perfect pods. Each one is better than the other.
Cookies.
I love cookies. I love